Welcome to Daily Gossip. You will get daily Hollywood updates here. So remember to subscribe for the latest videos because today's story is not just another piece of celebrity news. It is a breathtaking journey into the quiet yet monumental life of one of Britain's most iconic performers, Tommy Steele, now 88 years old, who has captured hearts for decades with his music, his films, his dazzling stage presence, and above all his charm. But what has shocked fans and stirred endless whispers across the celebrity gossip world is not just his age or his enduring legacy, but the fact that he lives alone in a sprawling, storybook mansion that seems frozen in time, carrying memories of golden eras gone by, the laughter of parties once held, and the silence of present solitude. And when we talk about Tommy Steele, we aren't just talking about a man, we are talking about the very symbol of Britain's rock and roll awakening. A man who stood on stage in the 1950s and made teenagers scream with excitement. A man who crossed over into films and musicals and became a beloved star, the British Elvis, as so many once called him, though Tommy always modestly shrugged off the comparisons, saying he was just a lad with a guitar and a dream. Yet behind that humbleness there was an undeniable aura of greatness, and now, decades later, that aura still shines. But it shines differently, more quietly, with the mansion walls holding the echoes of his life story, every room a museum of triumph and memory, and fans can't help but wonder what it must be like for Tommy Steele, at 88, to walk those corridors alone, remembering the glitz, the cheers, the applause, and the glamour of a past that the world still remembers, but which he now carries privately in the silence of his home. And this mansion is no ordinary house. It is a grand estate filled with history, treasures, and memorabilia, from gold records to black and white photographs that tell the tale of a boy from Bermondsey who rose to international fame. And as you picture Tommy sitting in one of the mansion's quiet rooms, perhaps by a piano or near a window overlooking the gardens, you can almost feel the bittersweet weight of legacy, the glory of what was, and the loneliness of what now is. Because the truth about celebrity life, as glamorous as it may seem, often leads to these reflective, solitary chapters, and Tommy Steele's story, even today, captures that contrast so powerfully, reminding fans of the price of stardom, the fleeting nature of fame, and yet the everlasting impact of an artist who gave his youth to performance and in return earned a place in history, a place that cannot be erased, not even by the quiet stillness of his current life inside that mansion. And the world continues to talk, continues to wonder, continues to be fascinated, because when an icon like Tommy Steele lives alone at 88 in a mansion that seems as timeless as he is, it sparks a mixture of emotions, admiration, nostalgia, sadness, and above all, curiosity about what daily life looks like for a man who once lived in the blinding light of showbiz, but now chooses the shadows of privacy. And in this mansion, surrounded by reminders of past glory, Tommy Steele shows us that even when the stage is gone, the legend remains. And that is what makes this story both heartbreaking and beautiful, dramatic and real, glamorous yet emotional. A true daily gossip tale that pulls you into its depth and refuses to let go. But as the story of Tommy Steele's life at 88 continues to unfold, it becomes clear that what he represents today is not simply a man inside a mansion, but a living time capsule of show business itself, a figure who carries within his walls the echoes of screaming fans, glittering premieres, curtain calls that went on for minutes, and the warm glow of limelight that so few have ever experienced. And yet when the spotlights fade and the audience goes home, what remains is the essence of the person, the quiet humanity behind a legend, and Tommy's current life is a reminder of just how fragile and bittersweet that journey can be, because though he lives in comfort and majesty, surrounded by mementos of triumph, he also walks alone in vast halls where laughter no longer fills the air, and his daily rituals tell a story all their own, rising slowly each morning with the gentleness of age, moving through rooms lined with framed photographs of his past, photographs of a boyish smile, holding a guitar, of film sets where he charmed millions, of moments on stage when his energy was electric, all reminders of who he was and who he still is, Yet he now confronts each day in silence. His companions no longer crowds or co-stars, but the ticking of antique clocks and the flutter of curtains in the mansion's tall windows. And there is a striking poetry to it, as if his life has become its own stage play, with the mansion as set, solitude as audience, and memory as script. And when he walks into the gardens, lavish, well-kept, bursting with color, he often pauses near the roses, and those who have spotted him from afar describe a man lost in thought, perhaps humming the melodies of songs that once brought entire theaters to their feet, songs that remain etched in the DNA of Britain's cultural history, because Tommy Steele was not just a singer or an actor, he was a revolution. The boy from Bermondsey who gave Britain its first real taste of rock and roll, the performer who dared to step into a world dominated by American idols and carve out his own identity, and even now, at 88, living alone in that mansion, he remains the embodiment of resilience, but resilience tinged with loneliness, glamour wrapped in stillness, and that duality is what fascinates the public so much, for fans wonder what his evenings are like. Do they end by the piano as his hands gently press keys in a house that otherwise holds silence? Do they end by the fireplace where he perhaps sits with tea, reflecting on a life that outshines imagination? Or do they end in quiet contemplation by his window, where the night sky mirrors the glitter of spotlights he once knew so well? And in truth, all these possibilities feel real because Tommy Steele's story is not fiction. It is a living legend's twilight chapter, one that stirs emotion in every heart that remembers his name and his mansion, filled with gold records, awards, costumes from musicals, and letters from fans across decades, is not just a home but a monument to an era of artistry that shaped generations. And while some might think of solitude as sadness, others see in Tommy's life a choice, a retreat from noise into peace, a decision to let his mansion be both his castle and his sanctuary. And that is what makes his story both heartbreaking and inspiring, because though he lives alone, he does not live forgotten. Though his halls are quiet, his legacy roars louder than ever, and in a world that moves on quickly. From one celebrity to the next, Tommy Steele at 88 remains fixed in history, a diamond whose brilliance cannot be dimmed by time, and so his mansion becomes a metaphor, a towering reminder that the rewards of fame are as eternal as its costs, and that within the glamorous walls of success there will always be the silent truth of age, reflection, and solitude, and fans across the globe continue to whisper his name, continue to search for pictures of his estate, continue to ask what he is doing now, because even in his silence he is still making headlines. And perhaps that is the greatest twist of all, that a man who once sang to millions now says nothing at all yet remains louder than ever in memory, myth, and gossip, the perfect combination of glamour and melancholy that keeps audiences captivated, proving that the show never really ends. It just changes stages, and Tommy Steele, 88, living alone in his mansion, is still performing the greatest role of his life, the role of a legend who endures.